Good morning to parents, carers and prospective students who potentially may be coming to St Michael's next year. Apologies for our slight technical glitch at the beginning. Today we've got a virtual session around our SEND provision within the college. Hi, I'm Mr Daly. I'm one of the assistant principals at St Michael's Catholic College, and I'm kind of overseeing the kind of change to this kind of virtual platform for these types of events. Now, in previous years, you would have come into the college and visited the SEN department and spoken to the leads, the staff within there, potentially the TAs, and some of the students, and got a feel for whether or not this college was the right place to send your son or daughter. But I'm very confident that after today's presentation, I'll give you a brief introduction to that, you will be able to make an informed decision about this institution and whether you'd like to send your son or daughter. So the kind of running format for this morning will be, I'll be handing very briefly to the head teacher, will be giving a kind of just a summary of our kind of college and the ethos. If you're interested in watching the full presentation, which went live on Monday, I will talk about that at the very end of the presentation. Then I'll be handing over to Miss Freegard and Miss Nottage, who kind of look after the whole inclusion team within the college. And then when they finish, there'll be some questions. Thank you for all the questions that you've sent in. I will be kind of summarising, picking out some of the key elements that you've brought up, and be asking the Miss Freegard and Miss Nottage those questions. And then at the very end, we'll come back to me and I'll give you some information about future events around our open evening and how you can log on and see our open day portal and get any information that you may require. So I'm going to hand over to now our principal, Miss Corcoran. Thank you, Mrs. Corcoran.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to St Michael's Catholic College. This is one of our open events, as Mr. Daly explained. And I know that, parents and carers making decisions about where to send their child with the secondary school to choose, it's a difficult decision. I know that for those of you who have children with SEND needs, that decision is even, more complicated, because you need to make sure that the school you choose is absolutely the right school for your child. And you may be more anxious about that transition process and about the support that's available, and particularly the change from support from primary school and how that support is maintained and what that support looks like in a secondary setting, because it is very different. And at St Michael's Catholic College, we have high aspirations for all of our students, whatever their need, and our curriculum and our provision is tailored to meet students' individual needs. We have the same high expectations of students, whatever their ability is, because we want them to fulfill their potential and to leave secondary education going out into the world and be able to have choices about what they do and to be successful in their future careers and in their lives. And that's about them having academic support and enabling them to take the qualifications that they need, but also helping them to develop all of those skills, important skills, life skills, working as a team, managing difficult situations, public speaking, all of those things that, some students with SEND needs may find more complex, but we have a really successful track record of working with students of all abilities, and students with SEND needs at St Michael's have been very, very successful over the last few years and have gone on to post-16 provision, college courses, university, apprenticeships, and have found kind of employment or further education that suits their needs. So we are confident that what we have in place here meets the needs of all children. It's a supportive and very, very caring environment. It is an environment of very high aspirations, and we don't make any excuses for that. We want students to rise to the challenge, and we support them to do that, so that they can be part of the community, be part of the society, and play a full part in the life of the school. So I'm going to hand you over to Ms. Freegard and Ms. Nottage, and they're going to talk more about specific provision.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Miss Nottage, and I'm the assistant principal in charge of behaviour, inclusion and safeguarding. And so I work along with Miss Freegard and the rest of the inclusion team and the whole staff body to make sure that we are supporting all of our students, whatever their needs may be. I'll pass over to Miss Freegard.
Good morning, prospective parents. Welcome to St Michael's. I am the head of the SEN and inclusion team, and we work very hard, as Miss Corcoran has already said, to meet the needs of our SEN children. We like to consider ourselves a bit of a family that looks to achieve the highest possible outcomes for our SEND pupils. Currently, and I think if we could put up the PowerPoint, please, Mr. Tijani, we go on to the next slide. Currently, we have 189 students on our SEND list, so it's quite a significant minority of our school population. 20 of those students have an education healthcare plan. The majority of our EHCP students do have complex needs, and many of them are on the ASC spectrum. So our current staff team is very experienced in supporting students with ASC. We have 7 teaching assistants and learning mentors, most of which are graduates or experienced members of staff, and 2 fully qualified teachers. Next slide, please. Now, for all of our SEND students, our starting point is quality first teaching. Huge amounts of research demonstrates very clearly that SEND pupils make most progress if they are in the mainstream classroom and they receive direct teaching from the teacher. Now, what this means is that our teaching includes the highest possible expectations of your child. I am a parent of an SEN child myself, and I know how difficult this transition is. And it's very important they're in an environment where they have the highest possible expectations made of them, and that the teaching builds on what they already know, understand, and can do. All of our lessons are fully differentiated, ensuring that your child will be able to access the lesson content and be fully engaged in their learning. We need our young ones to enjoy their learning in order to achieve. Next slide, please, Lawrence. If your child has more complex SEND needs, then our department will share specific strategies with our staff, and it will also include in-class teaching assistant support where necessary. We ensure that all of our SEN pupils have a profile written on them, which is a working document, and we continue to add to strategies and work out what works best for them and what doesn't, and we share that with staff. We also obviously liaise with the outside agencies to design and deliver special intervention work, including work around speech and language difficulties, but also social storytelling are just some of the examples. We work closely with our educational psychologist and our speech and language therapist, which are provided through the LA. Provision for SEND students involves this continuous process of assessing a child's need, planning what we need to do, actually doing it, and then reviewing it. If something doesn't work, we will try something else. At all times, and I cannot stress this enough, our young people are at the centre of everything that we do. We believe that it is that every child has something to offer, and every child deserves the best possible outcome for your child. And I think when you're looking for a secondary school, it's rather like when you're looking for a home. You have to see if it feels that it's the right place for your child. Thank you for listening to the presentation. I'll hand back to Mr. Daly, I assume.
Thank you, Ms. Freegard. Thank you for giving us that summary of the SEN provision for our students. And now I thought we'd go into a kind of question and answer session. As I said earlier, thank you very much, parents, for the questions that you've provided. And what I'm going to do is trying to take a broad base of those questions and ask Ms. Freegard and Ms. Nottage if they could give us some answers related to our kind of SEN provision within the college. So I'll scroll the questions up at the bottom. Just bear with me a second. One of the questions that came in from one of the parents: what experience does the school have of working with small children with language difficulties, and what training does your staff have with regards to that?
So we were very fortunate that over lockdown, one of our experienced TAs and one of our old students actually did a course in EAL. She's now fully qualified to help identify students with EAL, to assess them, and then work out the best strategies to enable them to access the curriculum. Our main approach to children with language difficulties, if it's EAL, is to simply immerse them in the classroom, because it's absolutely amazing how quickly they do pick up the language, particularly with some additional support. I hope that answers that question.
Fantastic. And this is one that's come up several times from parents. How closely do we as a college work with parents of a student with SEN? Tell us about that.
The obvious answer to that is, as a parent, you know your child better than anyone else. And if we don't work closely with a parent, then we are putting ourselves at a distinct disadvantage. We operate an open door policy virtually. We're always available either on email or by telephone conversation. And as much as possible, we'll invite parents in, obviously in social distanced meetings or remote meetings. It is very important. It's the centre of everything that we do, that we listen to parent voice and respond to that appropriately.
Fantastic. This one, obviously very pertinent, I think, for potential Year 7 students who could be joining us next September. A child's very anxious about starting secondary school. Given the current climate, what support can we offer to Year 7 students potentially starting in?
So what we do is a specialist open morning for our SEND pupils that are transitioning from primary to secondary. We did used to do lots of visits to primary schools. How much COVID will allow, I'm not sure. But this summer just gone, we had all of our new SEN students come in, and we did a special tour of the school to familiarise them with the building, to meet some of our key staff, so that they felt they weren't coming in cold in September. And once they do arrive in September, then each Year 7 class is given a specific TA, which will introduce themselves and work with that particular class and help those students settle, because it is a very, it's an anxious time for both parents and children. And we do try and look after your babies, I promise.
Perfect. That kind of relates almost to the next question. How happy would you say our children are in the school that need extra support?
I think they're very well supported, not only by the adults, but by the other children in the school. Mm-hmm. I take a pride in the fact that St Michael's is a community, and that our non-SEND children are very accepting and go along with and form good positive relationships with our SEND pupils. And I think that goes back to the values of the school, this respect, understanding, affection and humour. They use that in their approach to each other, and I think that makes for happy children right across the board. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. This question: how much time is spent in the classroom versus removal to kind of one-to-one sessions, and what extra support do we provide?
My 30 years of experience, together with a lot of the research, demonstrates the best place for any SEND child is in the mainstream classroom.
Yeah, you said that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, and I feel that, yes, we do a little bit of one-to-one work. We do reading clubs, we do homework support. We do try and keep the child in class supported by a TA rather than remove them. They need to have the same diet as everyone else. They need to have that social interaction. Having said that, if we feel they need a specialist intervention, then we will liaise with the local authority. And yes, they can be brought out, for example, for things like speech and language therapy or CAMS, or if they need to see our school counsellor.
Perfect. I don't know if you're reading my mind here, Ms. Freegard, but another question is, how much support do we have from outside agencies? You just kind of touched on
that. We buy in educational psychology services, we buy in speech and language therapy, we access the local authorities' support in terms of our autistic children. We also work very closely with CAMS, family early help, social care when necessary. We're also very fortunate to have our own school nurse who is very adept at liaising with healthcare professionals to ensure that we're meeting the full gamut of needs, particularly for our young ones with EHCPs.
Perfect. And for some students, obviously, irrespective of age, there can be issues with students. Do we offer any counselling for students that potentially could need that extra support within the college?
We have a fully qualified school counsellor who's in 2 days a week. We also have some very experienced learning mentors. We have a member of staff who's trained in cognitive behaviour therapy. We like to feel that the inclusion and SEN team act as a secure base for those students who genuinely have emotional needs, and we support them in helping them to build their emotional resilience, because that obviously has a direct impact on their ability to learn.
Perfect. Changing slant slightly, what kind of strategies do we use? What kind of strategies do the teachers use within the classroom and outside the classroom to make sure that our students are fully supported and are getting that extra?
Yeah, so all our teaching is on interactive whiteboards. Often the visual aids to help them understand are printed off separately as well, so they have them in front of them. A lot of our teachers, particularly our assistant Senko, who's a maths teacher as well, is very good at modelling, physically doing and modelling. And we find that works very well for our SEND pupils, because we all have different ways of learning. And many of our SEND pupils are visual learners, and they respond very well to visual cues. So that's something that's very much in our mind. We like them to learn through doing as well, but at the moment, because of social distancing, that is very limited.
Fantastic. This question, so a potential student that comes here, they might not have been tested thoroughly at primary school. Can we help with that? What kind of
So when they first arrive with us, we first of all do what's called CATS tests. So they're cognitive ability tests, and they're a raw score, if you like, of general IQ, non-verbal, verbal, and they give us a very clear indication of where your son or child is at. We also we test the whole year group for reading comprehension. We look at the SAT results, we look at reading comprehension scores, we look at the CAT scores, and if a child is scoring below the average, that is the issue, then we will put them on the SEN list, but of course with consultation with parents, and we look at what support they might need. So we're constantly monitoring our young ones. Staff are very good at responding if they feel there's a difficulty. And then as a team, we are able to do some psychometric testing and screening to see what that difficulty might be, and then put the right strategies in place.
Perfect. This one obviously very pertinent to prospective parents and carers. How many children do we have in a class?
So in a class that we have children. We have children with complex SEND. They'll be in the class size of 15 or 16. And if necessary, there'll be 2 teaching assistants together with the teacher in that environment to ensure that they're accessing the curriculum. So they do benefit from a smaller class size, and they do benefit from quite substantial support from teaching assistants.
Excellent. On this question, do you have pupils with ASC who might not have a EHCP and a high function? How do we support those pupils?
So we just recently did some research last year into looking at how to best support our high functioning ASC students, because we have found that our high functioning EHCP students are incredibly bright, incredibly gifted, and often end up going to university. So it's a question of, for them particularly, is managing their stress levels, their anxiety levels, and then helping them prioritize and organize when it comes to exam work.
Brilliant. Do your department speak with primary schools to under requirement? Obviously, students are coming with some specific needs at times. Do we liaise with primary schools to make sure that we've got clear understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, we normally do transition meetings where either myself or Miss Karbownik will go and visit the primary school, meet the child, meet the parents, and have a talk about the school. Then they have an induction day. Now, because of COVID, obviously that would be done remotely. So we had remote Zoom meetings where we met parents, we met children, to try and ease the transition. That is essential to easing that transition, is for them to see a familiar face, particularly on their first day at St Michael's.
Excellent. I know we have some students here that have been diagnosed with autism. How do we support students in the college?
So often with children with autism that don't necessarily have learning needs, the issue is the social side of things. It's helping them to learn how to socialise with other children. And so we do hold a Key Stage 3 lunch club, although it's differentiated into the 3 different year groups, to give them an opportunity to practice their social skills, to maybe play a bit of chess, to have a safe, secure environment where they feel that they can meet other children with similar needs and develop those social interaction skills. That's something that we do provide.
And the question just come in just now. For students that are kind of approaching the exams, those key years, year 11, year 13, do we offer any support for those students in terms of making sure that we get the very best and they fulfill their potential?
So this is part of my responsibility. I test all of our young ones for access arrangements. So they're tested in year 10 to see if they require extra time, if they require a reader, if they require a scribe. So we ensure they get the full access arrangements they need to overcome any possible boundary to them achieving their full potential. We also run a special lunchtime study club for year 11 students to help them organise themselves, get on top of revision skills. And most of our SEND students who are coming up to exam, particularly in year 11, get additional English, additional maths, and a study support lesson. So that's 3 hours a week of additional support.
Fantastic. In terms of movement around the college, are all parts of the school college accessible for any particular child?
I'm going to hand that over to Miss Nottage, who is the expert on the school building and health and safety.
Hi again, everybody. Yes, so all parts of the building are accessible for all students. If a student has a physical need that we need to be mindful of, then they are provided with a lift pass, and then they're able to use the lift at any point that they may need to during the school day. At the moment, actually, in some ways, it's much easier for year 7s because they have a base, and actually it's given them the opportunity to get to know the school without all of the movement. But if things are back to normal in September and everybody is moving around, on the first day, typically it's just year 7 in school, and they have the opportunity to do an orienteering activity around the college. So without other students, they're able to get to know the building. And of course, other students and teachers help them in terms of moving around the building in those first couple of weeks so that they get used to it. And then the expectation is obviously that they should be arriving on time to lessons, but they've definitely got that period of adjustment so that they can get around everywhere.
Fantastic. I think this is one for you again, Ms. Freegard.
Okay.
Do you have a grading system or any mentoring programs within the college for those students that need that extra support?
Absolutely. So we've used that system a lot in the past. Again, at the moment, that's something that we've had to sort of put aside because of social distance,
of course.
COVID. But in the past, we've often used year 12 students to buddy up with our year 7 students to help them get used to the school rules, the expectations, and to help them just adjust to the transition. If we feel a child is feeling a bit lonely or isolated in the year group, then we'll liaise with the head of year and we'll sort out a little buddy for them, someone that they can go around with at lunch and break times so that they're not feeling isolated. We're very aware of that, very conscious of that, and do our best to help our young ones settle.
Excellent. That's brilliant. And in terms of progress, and this is another one that's just come in from a parent as we're speaking. How often do we measure progress within the college? how's this tracked, and how are parents informed? I would add to the question that's been sent in.
So we have 3 what's called data drops a year, where the children complete an assessment and we can see where they are in relation to their target. If we have concerns about the rate of progress, then both heads of year but also the SEND department will invite parents in to discuss their child's progress, to review intervention and see how we move forward. And on the whole, our SEND children do well in the school. They make good progress. The actual gap between SEND and non-SEND is only small, if not insignificant, in certain subjects. And all of our young people go on to progress at 16 plus. They're given priority as well in terms of careers advice. And some of our young ones come back to visit us, and we're so proud because they've gone to university and they've gone on to have
that kind of leads. Sorry to
sorry.
Kind of leads, can you think of any success stories of particular students that have gone on to greater things and work very closely linked with the SEN department?
So one of our ASC students received an unconditional offer from Goldsmiths College to do fine art. She was so gifted and so high achieving that they gave her an unconditional offer, and she's settled and she's making good progress. I can think of another young man that has gone on to do media studies, and his long-term plan is to join the police force. And we still hear from both of them. So it's fantastic.
That's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. In terms of kind of the facilities and technology, bear with me. Do we have a lot of resources within the college?
Yes.
I think we've got over 700
laptops.
I think we've got over 700 laptops in the college.
Yeah, we get to. So, for example, we run a special SEND homework club.
Yes.
And those pupils get access to not only 2 TAs, but also a Chromebook to help them complete their homework remotely. So there is always a laptop, especially for some of our youngsters who maybe have dyspraxia and their handwriting is even worse than mine, if that's possible, then they get to use a Chromebook in class. So this technology is available. We have reading pens as well that help, particularly useful to our dyslexia children who sometimes struggle with their decoding. So there is technology available and we make that accessible.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your kind of responses. I'm very mindful of the time, parents and carers. All your questions, I know there are some other questions, but what I'll be doing, I'll be putting up a link. As you can see, the link is scrolling along the bottom of the screen there, and this broadcast is being recorded. I've got one final question for you, Mrs. Freegard. So slightly more personal nature. You've been at this college for a very long time. You've worked you've been very involved within the SEN department and now one of the leads of the SEN department. Why is that?
Why is that? Because I've many times I've thought about moving on, but I'm
glad you stayed. We're glad you stayed.
I love the sense of community, and I think our children are absolutely amazing, and I never stop learning, and I never stop developing personally and professionally. This is what that environment has provided for me, and I do love my job, and I am committed to working, to helping our young people and our parents too.
Thank you very much, Ms. Freegard, and thank you to you, Ms. Nottage, as well. Parents, carers, hopefully that has given you an overview of the SEN provision that we provide within the college. If you've got any further questions, please feel free to contact us via all the information that you've seen today and our previous kind of sessions that we've had during the course of this week are available on our Open Day platform. As you can see at the bottom there, as I said earlier, we've got the scroll along there, the link, which is available for all parents. We've got, just to let you know, about a couple of sessions coming up still. Next Monday at 10 o'clock, I will be holding a session with our kind of student voice. So some of our very, very brilliant Year 11 prefects will be holding a session, just asking some general questions about the college. And for you, again, please feel free to posting any questions that you may have that haven't already been answered today or any of the previous sessions. And then following that, we'll have a session with Miss Ruggerpuff. Some of you may have tuned into that one early in the week about the admissions procedure, but we're going to have a more in-depth session. So please, if you've got any outstanding questions regarding how you apply, where you apply, is it online, please send those questions in, and Miss Ruggerpuff will be holding a session on Monday the 5th. Those links will be sent out to you. They would have been emailed to you, but we will resend them. I hope that this session on DARSEN provision has been instructive, and you've been able to gain lots of information about our college. And I think Miss Freegard touched on this earlier. It's an extremely important decision, isn't it, where you send your son? And my advice would be, of course, go out there and look at all different types of colleges, and you and your child together will make the best decision about where you'd like them to be come September 2021. Hoping to see lots of applications come in, obviously, for St Michael's Catholic College. And as I said, if you've got any further questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. Thank you very much for your time today, and we look forward to receiving your applications over the coming weeks.
Mr. Daly, just very quickly.
Of course.
Yeah, just to say that those children with EHCPs, it is a different process for an application, and you apply directly to Southwark. Yeah, okay.
Perfect. I can just see that scrolled up bottom. Yes, thank you very much for that, Ms. Freegard. Parents, carers, have a wonderful day. And as I said, we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you.